He wasn't stabbed. He wasn't hanged. He wasn't even beheaded. King Henry VIII ordered him to be boiled alive slowly in front of a crowd. And here's the darkest part. There was no such law at the time. The king made one just to make it happen. This is the terrifying truth. A story of the chef who was turned into a warning and the monarch who rewrote the rules of justice in boiling blood. If you crave royal stories history, try to bury. Don't forget to hit subscribe to. In 1531. Richard Roos was just a cook. Not a noble, not a warrior, just a man who prepared meals for the household of Henry VIII, the Bishop of Rochester. He had no political power, no enemies at court, but he worked in a place that mattered. A home connected to church, crown, and politics. In Tudor, England, even a kitchen could become a battlefield. And Rose, whether guilty or not, was about to become the most gruesome example of royal justice gone. Mad. It started with a simple meal. Rose allegedly prepared a pot of porridge for Bishop Fisher's household. But soon after eating, 2 people fell violently ill and died. Others in the home were also sickened. Panic spread. Poison was suspected. The bishop himself had skipped the meal that day, surviving by chance. Immediately all eyes turned to the cook. Rose was arrested, dragged before the authorities, and accused of deliberate poisoning. But there was a problem. No law existed that allowed execution by boiling. At least not yet. When King Henry VIII heard of the poisonings, he was enraged. But this wasn't just about justice. It was about fear and control. In a time when religion and politics were dangerously tangled, a poisoning inside a bishop's home felt like treason. Henry didn't want a quiet trial. He wanted a message. Something unforgettable, something terrifying. So instead of following the law, he created a new one. Within days, Parliament passed the Boiling Act of 1531, allowing people convicted of poisoning to be boiled alive, starting with roast, a punishment made for one man. Richard Roos was never given a fair trial. There was no jury, no defense, no investigation beyond the king's anger. He claimed the poisoning had been accidental, perhaps a mistake with herbs or medicines. But it didn't matter. The new law existed now, and it had only one name written on it, his. Within days of its creation, Roos was condemned. There would be no prison, no hanging, just a cauldron, a fire, and a crowd. It wasn't just being punished. It was being turned into a spectacle, a warning in human flesh. On April 5, 1531, Richard Roos was brought to Smithfield, a public place often used for executions, but this would be unlike anything Londoners had seen. A giant metal cauldron had been prepared, filled with boiling water or oil. Records differ, but the result was the same. The fear roared. Guards held the crowd back. Roos was chained, stripped, and lowered slowly into the liquid. Not trapped. Lowered. The intention was not a quick death. It was agony stretched across minutes. And as he screamed, hundreds watched, some in horror, others in silence, as the boiling liquid touched his skin. Richard Roos screamed in ways no one could forget. The crowd packed. Soldater stood frozen. Some whipped, some turned away, but most just watched. His skin blistered, then peeled, then split. Eyewitnesses said he thrashed in the pot like a wild animal, trying to lift himself out, only to be pushed back down. The stench of boiling flesh filled the air. His suffering lasted more than 15 minutes. It wasn't a execution. It was ritualized pain, and the king wanted every second of it. Known. The execution shocked even Henry supporters. Many whispered that the punishment was excessive, even grotesque. But the king stood firm. He declared that poisoners were worse than murderers. He said they attacked silently without honor. And for that, they deserved a death beyond imagination. The Boiling Act wasn't just about Richard Roos. It was a tool for fair. A message to servants, cooks, and caminis. Even the lowliest hand could become a threat. And if you dared step out of line, your flesh might be the next to boil. After Roos's execution, London didn't erupt in applause. It fell into a strange, frightened quiet. People spoke about it only in hushed tones. Especially kitchen workers, servants, and verbalists. If a king could change the law overnight and boil a man alive, with no trial, what protection did anyone have? Some clergy began to question whether the act was even Christian. But no one challenged Henry directly. It was too powerful, though unpredictable. Roos's death didn't just punish one man. It shook the entire kingdom into obedience. Even within Henry's court, the memory of Roos's execution lingered. His closest advisers, like Thomas More, reportedly felt uneasy, though they never said it openly. The boiling death wasn't just brutal. It was personal. It revealed a king who could be sudden, violent, and theatrical. A ruler who didn't just punish. He crafted punishments. It became clear that Henry's justice was no longer bound by law. It bent to his emotions. The cauldron wasn't just for Roose. It was a mirror into the king's mind. Boiling, unpredictable, and merciless. Richard Roos left no writings, no last speech, no legacy. He wasn't a nobleman or a traitor, just a cook accused of a fatal mistake. Some historians believe he may have been innocent or simply careless with herbs. Others suspect he was a scapegoat, an easy target in a moment of royal paranoia. But certain is this: his death wasn't about justice. It was about fear, about control, about power, making an example out of powerlessness. And once the screams faded, so did his name. Until history began whispering it again. The Boiling Act of 1531 didn't die with Richard Roos. It remained on the books and used but lurking for over a century. It was invoked again under Henry's son, Henry VIII, for a woman named Margaret. David, who was also boiled for poison.